Hello everyone. So today we are going to solve problem number 290, and that is word pattern, which is the daily problem for today. So the ask of the problem is like we have been given a pattern and a string, and we have to find if S follows the pattern or not. So what is being asked in this question is if I have to simplify this line, what it actually means is with each of the character in the pattern, right? If we split the pattern based on the characters that we have, so each of these signifies a character, right? And with each character there can only be a single word that can be mapped to it. So if there is A, so it can only be mapped to dog. So if it is B, it can only be mapped to cat. It's not like A can be mapped to cat also, right? So that will violate the pattern, right? So that's not possible. And the second is thing is also possible. A character cannot be mapped to two strings. Like A cannot be linked with both cat and dog. So that is the restriction of the problem, and that what this particular line signifies here, right? So just to summarize, like what we have to do in this problem is like the constraint of the problem is something like this. If there is a key 1, let's say A, it can only be mapped to a value 1, that is dog, right? And this cannot be mapped to value 2, right, like cat. So this is ask 1, and the reverse of this is also true. Like we cannot have key 1, right, that is A, and key 2, which is B, and both of these cannot be mapped to a single value, that is dog, right? So these, while coding, we have to keep these constraints in mind and have to write the code. And if anywhere they violate be either of these three situations, we have to return false. Else if nothing violate this condition, then at the end we have to return true. So this is the ask of the problem. Now let's go through the code how to implement the constraints that we have discussed above, these two, with the help of our code. To save time, I have already taken out the snippet of the working code that we are going to discuss here. So in the problem statement, first of all, we have been given a pattern, right? So that pattern will be in the form of A, B, B, A. So it will be in the form of a string, right? So what we have to do first of all is to actually split that into char array, right? So that we have index at each of them. So this is what how we have done it. We have split that into char array, which is being done here. Now the second thing that we have to do is we have to split the given string, like we have been given s is equals to dog, cat, cat, and dog, and each of them, each of the string in the is separated by space, right? So if we split them on the basis of space, we will get a string array, right? So that's what has been done here. Now one of the constraint is like if we have to match the pattern, like it is given in the question that the string should follow the pattern, right? So what it means, like each of the string should be mapped to a character, and if the length is of the string in pattern array, that is char array and string array, is unequal, then we have to return false. So that's we have done here. Now, coming to the core problem or the core constraints that we have discussed earlier, these two, right? The number 1 and number 2. How we are going to do that? So, what we have to do is like, first of all, we have to create a map, right? So, what we'll be doing is like for each of the character, we'll be mapping a string to it, right? For let's say A, we'll be mapping dog, right? But in case if there is another thing that is all we are trying to map to it, then we will return false. So what we are doing in the code here is something like this. First of all, we are going through the character array or the pattern array that we have been given. So in the problem statement, it's something like this: A, B, B, and A. And A is mapped to dog, B is mapped to cat, B is again mapped to cat, and A is mapped to dog. So what we will do, we will first, so it's the indexing is something like this, right? So here is 0, 1, 2, 3. So with the zeroth character, the zeroth string is mapped, right? So what we will do is we will pick up the zeroth character, and with that we will see in our map what is the string mapped to it, right? So we try to get a string, but right at the first moment, let's say this is our map where we'll be keeping our mappings. So here it will be empty. So against A we don't have anything present inside this map, right? So it will be empty. So what it will do, our string will be null, and in case of null, what we have to do is like we have to simply add an entry. I'll come to this code. It actually comes from the second constraint that we have here, but let's see the code flow first. So if the entry is not present in the map, we just have to simply add the entry, that is A will be mapped to dog. Now, now in the second iteration, what will happen is like we will come to first index and we will have B. Again for B, we will see like this value will give us null. So again we will put B as cat here. Now what will happen is like again once we try to go to the second index, we will find B. Now in this case, what will happen is like the string will not be null. This particular str value will not be null, right? So here what will happen, it will go to else here, and here we have to actually check whether this constraint that we had discussed earlier, right? So whether this particular key is mapped to two values or not, right? So what will happen is this str will be getting from the map here, that is this cat. P is mapped to cat, and we will be checking whether in the array that we have been given in the problem, this cat, whether they are equal or not. If they are not equal, then what it means is like we are trying to map a single key to two values, which is wrong, right? So that thing we have to avoid. And if that happens, we have to return false, right? So we will return false, but in this case that is not happening because the problem statement we have been given cat, and in our mapping also it is present as cat, so it will not go over here, right? Now what will happen in the third case, like the third index value is like again we try to uh, see which character is mapped, so we will get from the map the string, right? So it will return as dog, and we see whether it is same as what we have been given in the problem. So it is coming as dog. So in the end it will return as true. None of the condition is violating. So in this end our answer will be true. Now, as I was saying, I will discuss this in the later section where we'll be handling the second constraint, right? This second constraint. So what was the second constraint? It was like two key two keys cannot be mapped to a single value, right? So when we try to put an entry to the map, right, before that what we have to check whether that particular value is mapped to another key or not, right? So that's what we are trying to do with all the entries in our map. We are trying to see whether the string that we are getting right now, is it already present against any other key or not, right? So if that is the case, what we will do, we'll return false. So with this, what will happen, the second constraint will also be taken care, and we'll be able to solve this problem. Now this solution is not the most efficient one. There are other ways with which you can actually use the map functionalities in Java to actually solve it more efficiently. But with this solution, what will happen is like you will be able to achieve the runtime with 95% better results than other solution, and like 98% memory efficient this code is. So I think that's pretty much better. But if you want to see other solution, you can check out the solution from others. But yeah, so that's all for today. Thank you very much.